But I'm trying something
Fair
new
enough.
here. We're gonna see how it plays out. It's like an intro clip, except for I didn't have the common sense to add like a track to it too. I'd love like birocratic. And then
Freeloading competence. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
give it a
that was
couple
one I
times
suggested
and
last night.
yep, ping. Lets everybody know it's the morning show. Like, isn't this? I know everybody can hear us yapping about this on the back end, but whatever. They get to be part of the experience.
Oh,
Oops.
yeah, fair
But it
enough.
repeats. Whatever. Do what you do. How do I turn that off? Dude, I know it's kind of like playing around, but I do like this. Like the medium is the message stuff. So like how our show gets produced, how it looks, really makes a difference on how, as opposed to like if I would just show up and we just showed up in a crappy webcam with mics that were snapping.
Well, to be honest, dude, you strike me as the kind of guy who gets real dickish about the presentation of your food too.
Yeah, well, if it's up for other people, if it's just for me, then whatever. Anyways, hi everybody. We're on Donovan Standard Time today, 9:04. Welcome, Red Morning. Uh, yeah, hey Carl, how you doing? I guess you're not cracking a beer right now, so
No, I
um,
cracked it a minute ago.
so
That's
he'll be
thirsty, dude. It's hot here.
yeah, yeah. Oh, there's my question. I saw we talked. If you guys don't know, we kind of talk about this stuff behind the scenes. What do you want to talk about this week? Carl came in like a bulldozer. It's like, here, this is the topic. I think of it as the way you talk about economic freeloaders, but I'm curious if you could walk me through what gave you this idea for the topic.
Well, it was just like one of those general things. Like, you know, that if you work in computers, people are always going to ask you, like, can you please fix my shit?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a doctor, people are going to show you all kinds of random stuff at parties and stuff. And that just gets me to freeloading. It's people who, instead of paying you for the competence, they just try and get it like, let's give me some friendly advice here. Fix this for me.
Yeah, friendly advice. Here's a bunch of work. All right, I get that. And I know we've talked about it a bunch on Rule Zero. I don't know if you were on your hiatus at the time, so you might have missed it. But it quickly devolves into just like all of us complaining about like bad clients we've had, which I didn't think was the most productive discussion, but it was cathartic and it seemed to get a lot of engagement. So we kind of need to get out of our system. But I'm just thinking, like, from a dating perspective, how does that play out? For girls, it's easy. They just want more stuff and they don't want to do anything to get it. That's simps. And that's kind of a boring conversation. Just thinking from a guy perspective, where they want more and more from a girl. And I guess that can almost segue into that incel talk that we're going to have on Rich's channel in 2 hours, which I'm so looking forward to.
Oh, the insult talk. You guys are getting flamed.
Yeah. Oh. And there was like this account I follow on Twitter. She's one of those like pro Trump, anti, like she's on the political side, but she's very funny about it. So I follow her on that one. And she goes, so let me get this straight. Your audience is a bunch of incels that troll up your chat. And I'm like, well, when you put it that way, this YouTube thing sounds like it's just been a waste of time. But I guess, yeah, so there's going to be a bunch of people who are just curious about the incel thing. And then I guess one of the guys is trying to dox John's mom, which is the weirdest thing. Like, why would you dox somebody's mom? I don't know.
Well, I did tell you, didn't I tell you that gaming story?
Maybe. Which one are we talking about? Refresh my
Well,
memory.
because like in when I was playing Star Wars Galaxies, there
Mm-hmm.
was like a real like hostile environment between the rebels and the Imperials on the server,
Of course.
and it was kind of common back then because you didn't have Discord, right? So everyone had each other's phone numbers. So in
Right.
case someone was trying to steal our bases in the middle of the night, everyone would get a call. So, but this didn't work too well when people started like jumping factions and they went over to the other side, and then they gave them the enemy's number, and then they started getting calls. But like it took off to the point where like one guy's mom was getting calls like 2, 3 years after we stopped playing the game from people who just be like, "Your son's a faggot" at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, people. Like, Eve. I used to play Eve Online, and there's no way in hell anybody would get any amount of personal information. Like, you just do not give it to sociopaths online, the nickname of the thing. That is kind of funny, though. Yeah, so the incel thing. But then that's a perfect example. I was thinking of what you're talking about, the free rider problem or the freeloader problem. So, case in point, I talked about this on Patreon. I'll tell you now. I have on my website where I add a consulting. If somebody wants an hour of time, we could talk over some problems, do a strategy session, basically like a Deloitte consulting session. Just that adopted towards dating and relationships. And at first I used to charge like $50. I even did a couple for free and I got bit in the ass. Every free one, like one guy did that and then remixed the tape to make it sound like I was telling him to like do like crazy incel crap. And I'm like, all right, so I'm never doing a free one again. And then the $50 ones, a lot of the times it's just a guy who wanted to complain about some single mom that shot him down. And I'm like, all right, I'm not doing those again. And then Rich is like, dude, stop doing that. Just keep charging more for your time until somebody says it's not worth it. And then there's that aspect of it, is that if people invest more, then they tend to be better clients. They have real problems. They actually want to fix them. They don't just want to complain and have some e-thought to complain about. But that's the thing I've noticed too, is that every attack on us, every like PowerPoint MGTOW, I call them now, because that's all they do is they make PowerPoint MGTOW videos about how Whammon ain't shit. But
Eric in chat had a good point. Did you guys see the video of the bitch who threw the hot coffee in another man's face for not wearing a mask?
Wait, what? Oh, yeah, the California one.
Well, I would say that I think she should get punished, and she probably should. But then again, that guy should probably be wearing his mask.
Well, they were outside. Like, just outside, minding their own business. Probably should. But that's like, oh, we shouldn't be punching Nazis. Well, you shouldn't have been a Nazi. It's like, I just don't think there's a viable excuse for assault other than self-defense. That's my thought on it. And yeah, honestly, of all the damage that could happen from him wearing a mask, I think damage of hot coffee in his eyeballs is probably worse.
Yeah, it's just like, for me, like I was kind of relaxed with this shit to begin with the whole contagion stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, like, how many people have to die in the States? I mean, the States is the worst place to get a pandemic that's like 7 times as mortal if you're fat and have diabetes, because that's 70% of the population is fat with diabetes.
But is it though? Because like you're seeing, they're throwing all kinds of things. Like you could have COVID, get hit by a bus, and they'll count it as a COVID death. So I think that's it's overblown there more than you'd think. But you are right; they are the higher risk population.
It's like in the U.S., it used to be like land of the free. Now it's like land of diabetes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, free to get fat. And that's fine. You just can't have socialized healthcare if you want to have people have like their health in their own hands. But that's like, I think of like the 2A, that Second Amendment argument that they have, where it's, and I don't know why nobody makes it. They decided that guns are sacrosanct. We get them, and that's it. End of story. So then there's the implicit understanding that, okay, certain amount of people are going to die by gunshots every year. And that's just the cost of the value system we've picked. Everybody makes that decision in your like wherever you're living, that there's certain costs with the standard of life you're used to. We decide in Canada, we want to drive cars. And so 20,000 people a year are going to die from cars. It's just the cost of doing business. And I think they've just adopted that same attitude towards a disease. Now, I don't have to agree with it, but then it's not my country to make the call. But I'm just surprised nobody frames it like that. Just a simple risk assessment. All right, we've decided that the cost of freedom is not worth it.
No, but it also comes back to what we're talking about today about freeloading competence.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do have a certain degree of socialized healthcare in the States too, like people with disabilities, Medicare, Medicaid, and all those programs. And that's essentially, you can trash your health, and if you don't have coverage, you can still go to the hospital. It just means that someone else has to take the cost.
So you're saying the increase of infections are going to mean that there's an increased cost to the healthcare system, which means you are paying it for the back. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that argument being made too. I mean, I don't see it being made, but I could see it being made. Because they just seem to argue about whether Black Lives Matter can make you immune to COVID or not, or racism makes you sick. I don't even know.
No, but the thing I actually love about those protests now, I wish COVID was more lethal, because it would kill off all the people that annoy the crap out of me.
Dude, if it was more lethal, people would start listening to these recommendations. But I think that's the point. It's like institutional trust. I'm going to totally steal this from like the international or dark web on this, where they talk about, like, can you think of one institution right now that is universally trusted? Like, is there a trusted source of anything? Presidential candidates, prime ministers, politics, hospitals, like everybody has been betraying their civic duty for like the benefit of the common good. All failed. And so it's almost, I think we kind of need to have these fights, because then people are starting to see, oh, so if I don't act professional, if I just throw the rules away when the person is hot enough for me to disregard it, and that, well, this is the consequence of it, that I've been crying wolf so much that nobody's going to believe me anymore. It could be a watershed moment, but I don't think we're self-aware enough as like a population to make that connection. But I would love it if it's that first step towards public institutions being like trustworthy and treating their trust as sacrosanct. I think lawyers might be the only ones that have it left, which is weird because they used to be the worst.
Yeah, doctors too.
Yeah.
Well, doctors too, to some extent, just because they have like that doctor-patient confidentiality and they have a certain code of ethics that can actually, they can lose their license if they screw that up. Same with lawyers. A lawyer who gets caught for a certain number of things can lose their.
They get dragged in front of the bar. Even judges, like getting reprimands. One of the guys in Married Red Pill, he had that, where he had that same MGTOW woe is me story, got divorced, raped in court. And everybody was like, okay, he's kind of playing it up. But then we talked kind of privately, and he showed me like the court case, the rulings. He showed me the judge. The judge got an official reprimand because he was simping so hard for the ex-wife. I'm like, holy crap, man. Like, you weren't making it up. You were actually under-exaggerating it. It's impressive. But yeah, you're right. Like, and then Corey in the chat, he'll have to say like an official reprimand for a judge. How big of a deal that is, I don't know. But I know in the military, if you're an officer and you get a reprimand, you're essentially, your career is halted at that point. You're going to be forever what rank you're in, and that's it. So,
Yeah, I don't know either, but I think if you had that for journalists, I think that would help a lot. Like, if you get caught actually doing some shady stuff, you lose your ability to actually write for a major publication.
Dude, that would be nice. As opposed to what we got. Actually, yeah, what do you think it is?
I don't think it would help a lot, though, because like the ability to publish is so ubiquitous now that even if you lost like your job at the New York Times or whatever, you could just start up a blog or start your own news website or pull a Gavin McInnes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Breitbart, McInnes's thing. What's his censorship.tv? Just waves his cane and gets mad at those kids on his lawn. Actually, I think that's the name of his show, Get Off My Lawn. He dresses up like Douglas from Falling Down. That's his shtick.
For me, it's just the issue. I don't think we're ever going to have trusted public institutions again. And for the most part, the practitioners in those institutions are to blame. Like, scientists and academics used to be highly regarded in terms of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And to be very trusted. They've lost a lot of trust because of all the bullshit that's been published in science's name.
Yeah, which I agree. And that's kind of on them because they were very, I don't know what we can say, they wanted to be inclusive, or they didn't want to ruffle any feathers, or they didn't actively fight to gatekeep well enough. I don't know, whatever reason's there, but you're right, it's there and it can't be stopped. So then what do we do about it? Because now we're at the point where we can see real life consequences. Well, if wearing a mask is truly good, that's just it. I read research papers and I'm like really boring nerdy that way. And I see a lot of research papers saying it's a placebo, but then I see a lot of people swearing it's true. But that's the point. We can actually make a really good case for both of them. So people are just kind of defaulting back to their value systems. And that's where that tribal split that we're seeing is coming up now. So we kind of reap what we sow here. Oh.
And I think that's one of the major, and that's also like the indirect form of freeloading competence, in that you're relying on someone else to make your decisions and to inform you instead of informing yourself and making your own decisions.
Yeah. And I get you have to. I mean, everybody can't be an expert at everything in life. So at some point, you have to defer some decisions to an expert. But then that's the question, like, how much do you want to defer it? Do you want to have your own, you want to have the doctor as the sole source of your health? You can either go yes, and then in case the doctor does malpractice, you're screwed. Or you can no, and you're one of those idiots on WebMD who's like, oh, it's lupus. I'm going to go to my doctor with, hey, I did a search here, and it says if I have a cold and a fever, I definitely have an autoimmune disorder, in which the case the doctor rolls his eyes. I don't know if Kirby's in here, but he used to love laughing at that crap. he's our resident MRP doctor. Though. What's that?
Ah, cool. No, but it's one of those interesting things I've found. Like, with Google, you get kind of like two types of people. You have the people who actively seek out information and get too much, and then you have people who get way too little or too much of the wrong information. Like, can you imagine, like, a lot of the guys who find MRP? Let's say they'd found the incel or the MGTOW community first.
Right.
What would have happened?
Well, we already know what's going to happen. I'll let you know in an hour and a half when they're spurging out in the chat. Oh, actually, on that, I actually can say without a doubt what'll happen, because I've seen like various field reports, either in the private Patreon or otherwise, I kind of see that pathway. It's where guys will have a covert contract. So they have like a horrible situation in a relationship or a divorce, getting zeroed out, whatever. Then they go through that path where, okay, I'm going to work on dread. Either they've checked out of the marriage and then the wife gives them a hint that they could maybe come back into it and be fine. So they have this covert contract where if I do enough stuff, I can win her heart again. Even though in their mind, they're like, screw that bitch. I'm going to go do my thing and sleep with a lot of hoes. And then usually around like the 2-year mark, the wall hits where reality meets fantasy. And they realize that the wife wasn't in on that covert contract and she pulls some thottery. And then the guy's like, well, what's the point of all this self-improvement if she doesn't do what I want her to do at the end of it? And I think that's that decision point where guys either learn to have your own mental point of origin where, whatever the girl does is outside of my wheelhouse. I'm just going to focus on me, become selfish. Or you go the other route where you're like, you know what? Whammon equals bad. Let's talk about Will Smith for an hour.
And I think that Will Smith thing was kind of interesting, though, because just on the basis that, like, everyone's like, well, men need to show more emotions. Men need to be more open about their emotions. Will Smith cries on national TV for catching a dick, and the whole country makes him into a fucking meme.
Yeah, fair point. That part was funny. Yeah, seething disdain was an emotion. They didn't seem to like that one so much, but forgiveness, great emotion. I watched it. I watched it with my girl, and we were sitting there, and I'm like, watching them justify that she wanted to go get some random dick and then come back for the sake of the family. And that's all it was a way of them coming to terms with, you're going to do this stuff. I'm going to put up with it. Bad boys for life. And I was like, oh my God. Like, that's watching gaslighting happen in real time. I don't think anybody took that lesson from it. Carl making the bed while chatting. No. He's got the dinner party.
No, actually, I'm cleaning.
Oh, you're cleaning?
Can you actually hear what I'm doing?
Well, parts of it. You're either scrubbing something or cleaning something, or I assumed you were scraping like pancakes off of your thing for breakfast or lunch.
No, my whole thing was just, it's a habit I've developed. Whenever I talk to someone, and I can tell that they're on like a bit of a monologue, I still listen, but I start to do shit, like, because I get caught up on the phone a lot because of work, and I'm working from home because of COVID.
Yeah.
I actually hope they keep that going forever because I hate offices.
Oh, dude. Sorry, keep hearing your story.
But I developed this habit that whenever I talk to someone and I'm not talking or not doing something, I just start doing random shit around the house because it's much easier to just kind of get that done while you're on the phone with someone as opposed to having to do it afterwards.
That's a very, very long-winded monologue to tell me that you're kind of half paying attention if I go on a rant. But whatever, it's fine. At this point, we're hitting the topic. Plus, on when I get on a roll, I'm starting to turn into Rolo that way. I get that.
But I think the Will Smith thing was just kind of... I think he should have divorced her instantly. His kids are old enough, and they kind of fucked them up already. I mean, considering their son is running around in fucking dresses.
Oh, I know. Yeah, the whole thing is kind of messed up, but I think that's just thirst on his side of things. Like, for him, he thinks that's the best he can do. He has that model of, like, lifelong, married together forever. And I'm pretty sure his ego won't let him come to terms with that being an unreasonable expectation. Like, you can... $100 million, still not enough to keep a chick loyal. What did she do? She shaved her head. And then she grabbed some young buck, rode him for a bit, then came back. All right, I'm ready to be Mr. Mom, to be a mom again. And you're like, Will, man. Oh. Yeah, I don't like it. And everybody's take on it is always like this cathartic whammon equals bad thing, and I don't like that either. I don't think it's productive.
I think people in general are shit. It's like an old buddy of mine used to say, like, if the humanity had an anthem, it's "The People Equal Shit" by Slipknot.
Ooh, Slipknot. I haven't heard that name in forever.
No, this was a while ago. But, so I just think people in general are going to suck regardless. I mean, you get good people, you get bad people. Gender doesn't even factor into it.
No, that's true.
I mean, you're always going to run into someone and it's like, oh, she's shit because she's a woman. No, she's shit because she's human.
Well, what's the thing? Like 50% of people are below average by default. It kind of lets you know right there. And the average person isn't anything special either. They're just kind of like blah. That's like that's zero. That's barely making rent level. That's average. And half the people are worse than
like
that.
That old George, Yeah, the Carlin bit. Yeah, like with the, just think about how dumb the average person is, and just then once that dawns on you, think about the fact that 50% of them are even dumber than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's fine. Whatever. You don't
So,
have to be. We're safe enough now that we've made it so you can be a complete idiot and still carve a decent enough life. Which I would rather have that than have this place so cutthroat that anybody less than 90% is going to get culled. It's that safety
I
net for
agree with
me.
you, but I do think it would be kind of nice if we just like got rid of a couple of things. Maybe get rid of bike helmets, get rid of the things that keep dumb people alive. Bike helmets, those things you cover electrical sockets with, like those safety caps on bleach. I mean, just get rid of those things, and the problem will solve itself.
Lead paint warnings. Yeah, that don't eat paint. I'll say this though. I don't know if bike helmets are as effective as they say because I wasn't wearing a bike helmet when I got hit by a car on my bike in like 2000. It's either 2011 or 2014. Sadly enough, I can't remember which year it was. But I got hit. I almost lost 2 fingers. I got some nerve damage on my side, ocular bone. Everything on me got beat to hell except for my head. So it was like the only thing that didn't get hit was my bike and my head. My body took the brunt of it. So I'm starting to think like I don't know if the helmet would have helped.
Possibly not.
But thank God for that.
Think back to like the ultimate sign I got that people are getting too stupid is that I bought a frozen pizza at one point.
Mm-hmm.
They come in like the cardboard box, and then you have the plastic wrap around the pizza itself.
Yeah.
And there was a warning on top of the plastic wrap. Please take the plastic wrap off before you put it in the oven. And
Which
if you
means
have to be
at least
told that,
one lawsuit happened, at least one.
yeah, and at that point, like if you have to be told, like you probably should take the plastic off the pizza before putting it in the oven. At that point, I think you should starve to death.
Or at least ingest some plastic. And it makes sense why you have like gated communities then. If you're smart enough or successful enough to actually carve some success out of your life, I totally get why you're like, I want a giant brick. I want to build a wall to keep all the other people that I've spent a lifetime filtering out of my life out of my life. It's probably a reason that Bill Gates doesn't read his DMs on tweets.
Yeah, probably. He probably doesn't have his DMs open even.
But then that's the thing. You can't do
Because
that anymore anyway, because it used to be the case where if you were super successful, you could wall yourself off from society at large. But now with the internet, there's like a back door for every dumbass to come in and get at least take some of your attention. And it takes like a real discipline to kind of filter that out again.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. It's one of those issues, but it's also a form of freeloading competence because some scientist sat down and designed that thing that goes those tamper-proof caps. They designed like the thing that go in electrical sockets so you can't shove a fork in them.
Yeah, probably had to test them with a bunch of idiots. All right, guys, try to stick your finger in that. I think we're working it, boys. It's happening.
So for me, it just comes down to the same thing. Like you have a bunch of competent people who are kind of keeping the incompetence alive.
Mm-hmm. But then, like, they wouldn't be competent if they couldn't. So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's something we have to deal with. So just how do we deal with it? And I do like your solution of culling freeloaders quickly and easily, as ruthlessly as possible.
And it's like it's different when you have like a deal with someone and you have like, okay, I'll share my competence with you because you share yours with me.
Right.
Like I have a lawyer buddy I can call up for free law advice because he gives me calls occasionally when he needs advice on something I know. Like I have a buddy, he's kind of set up because he's a carpenter.
Okay.
And he's kind of set up his friend circle so that they have like an electrician, a mechanic, a guy who does stonework, a guy who does plumbing. So they can basically build a house, and all these guys do is essentially trade favors with each other.
Intellectual bartering. I love it.
And it's very smart too, because like every guy works at let's say you work at a plumbing company.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, he gets a good deal from his employer on all plumbing supplies. So they all use their kind of discounts with each other too.
Oh, it's great.
So it's a very smart deal.
It's a very smart deal, but that's value adds, dude. If we could do that for relationships, I would be out of a YouTube career. I'd have to go to like just streaming Minecraft full time. And then to segue off of that, here's Mike Land, one of the guys from Patreon, very switched on guy. He brings up a good point. So you YouTube gurus, by the way, screw you, offering free content at the top of the funnel isn't much different than freeloading competence. And he kind of has a point there. Like, I don't know. Have I talked to you about the funnels where you have like a top of funnel where you just learn, where it's just about getting attention? Here's where I am. But YouTube is more the middle of the funnel. So if you guys don't know, the general gist of how you do online business is you have a funnel. The top of the funnel is literally learning your name. And that's why you see all the ridiculousness, the random beefs. The whole point is just name recognition. And then from there, you link them to the middle of the funnel. The middle of the funnel is where you show, you know, what you're talking about, you're competent, all that stuff that Carl's been talking. And then the bottom of the funnel is if you have products or things to sell. So for me, it'd be like the book or the Patreon community. And then the idea is, depending on how good a person is and how invested they are, they can join the funnel at a level they're comfortable with. So most guys, if you're just like no offense to anybody on YouTube, other than you guys, like if you're just a freeloader, you just come to see the free content, watch the spectacle. It's really cool. If you want to see more, like, does this guy know what he's talking about? Then you would join the links. A lot of people use email newsletters, blogs. Carl's blog is essentially a middle of the funnel activity. And then if, you know, Carl's sending gendernomics, that's the bottom of the funnel. So the idea is somebody who's just here for spectacle or a freeloader, and they're the ones that always complain about price. And so a way you kind of insulate yourself from them is you don't even sell them anything. You're like, I don't care if you buy anything. You're here to watch me dance like a clown. So there you go. You get as much as you invest on that. But then people who like your competence will see, okay, so I want to see Carl's content. They read his 1,700 articles of 2,000 words apiece. And then they really like the content. They really like his personality. Like, you know what? I want to see his book. So you're actually, I think Mike's really onto something then. So that content at the top of the funnel really is just a way of both attracting and filtering freeloaders, you know? I don't even mean that in a deprecating way, by the way. A lot of you guys aren't on Patreon. I'm not talking smack about you. You guys are good. We're talking about like John's audience.
Well, I'm mostly talking about people who aren't buying the book, because I'm definitely not getting as many sales as we have YouTube views.
Really? Well, that's kind of unfortunate. Looks like you guys are all freeloaders.
Well, to be fair though, like for the most part, I just do this for fun. Like, I earn my money other way, like certain female dating coaches. Yeah, they do dating coaching, but where they really earn their money is doing something else that we shouldn't mention. Hashtag OnlyFans.
Well, OnlyFans now. They used to do it old school back in the day. Oh, dude, I'd love to tell stories, but I'm like, Evil laugh intensifies.
Well, yeah, it's kind of similar to like who was that again? It was some chick like a while ago, and she was being like a dating coach thing. It came out that she was like sending all the guys nudes in exchange for them doing her content for her.
She may or may not have been a former Olympic athlete in the Cayman Islands who used to call herself Dr. Babe. Not saying it's her. I'm just saying I think it might have been. But don't go spamming her DMs. She blocked me early on as soon as I laughed at that stuff. Yeah, girls are the best source. It's always good to have one or two girls in, like, in this case, like the coaching sphere, or I don't know what you want to call it, because they will sell each other out in a heartbeat for clout. That's how I find out everything.
Yeah, it's also why we like. Yeah, it's also nice to keep Deads and Sushi around for the same reason, just because she's a prime example of everything we talk about.
I know, and she's so self-unaware. She has no idea that I'm like, exactly. Yeah, you got it, 100%. Why can't they be pleasant like you in your mid-30s here and definitely not a Karen? But it's adorable. It's almost endearing to me at this point because she's had such a long history with us. But I remember libertarians. So there was this one libertarian raccoon account. I don't remember anything about him. But and then Mac, the cosplay chick. So they're libertarians. They do the libertarian Twitter thing. And I guess there was this one 18-year-old libertarian who basically treated Dad, you can't tell me what to do, like a political ideology. And she said some, like, married guys stop hitting me up on DMs. You know, one of those flexes where, yeah, guys want to sleep with me, but I say no. And so I just laugh, like, this is the female equivalent of when a guy stands in front of a Lamborghini with the car keys. And libertarian Twitter, like, circled around her like rhinos protecting their young. This raccoon started calling me a manlet. It was obscene. But then she kind of comes in DMs like, just so you know, she really is a thought, and then sent me a bunch of like screenshots and tweet links. I'm like, wow, thanks, man. Yeah, girls will sell you out in a heartbeat. Don't ever, if you like a limitable man, perfect example, do not share your secrets with a female account online. If you are, you're an idiot and you deserve what's going to happen. They'll sell you out as soon as they can get any clout from it.
Yeah, the only way that it works is just you have to have. It has to be mutually assured destruction if you want to share those secrets. If you share her if you give her your secrets, she needs to give you her nudes, and just let her know that okay, if this makes public, then the nudes are going up.
It's smart anyway. Like at the very least, it protects you. It's a good risk perspective, I guess. It's what got us through the Cold War. How bad could it be?
At least that would be my reasoning. Like, and same thing. Like, whenever a girl tells you, like, you tell me everything, right? That's a kind of a. She's telling that she has an insecurity about something that she knows there's something you're not telling her, and she's not sure if it affects her or not.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those ones. It's so easy. All you have to do is say nothing about you. It's not about you, and then that's okay, good. Most of the time, I've seen girls don't care past that point. I guess getting back to the freeloader. Finish your thing, and then we'll do the freeloader.
I've got 8 or 9. Well, I usually do that with any kind of freeloading. It's just like, no, sorry, I can't say anything about that. A confidentiality agreement or non-disclosure.
Ooh, NDA. Look at you pulling out the fancy legal terms. Somebody here doesn't date chicks that only have high school education. Yeah, well, it's all about. But I think the core issue about like freeloaders, and I know that's not the term that you used for it, but whatever, I'm calling it freeloaders. The core issue about it is people not valuing their own value. You know what I mean? Like, if freeloaders aren't an issue if you make sure you don't accept anything less than what you're worth, whether it's your sex life or your work life or even just your online attention. If I respond to every incel dude who's complaining about whammon ain't shit, then how much is my attention worth really when some guy can complain online and I can dunk on him? And I'm as guilty of it for anybody. I love dunking on these guys. Not as bad as like John, but yeah, if you value your stuff, like you don't engage any of that, do you?
No, because, well, number one, why bother? And number two is just like, I'll only, like, at this point, I'm just going to go in there and I just throw out something inflammatory. Like, I spent last night going after vegans and people who don't drink. And my tweet engagement went from like 3% to 6% in like 2-3 minutes just because people, half of them, well, the vegans and the non-drinkers, they're going to come after me. And then you have the drinkers and the people who hate vegans who are going to go after them. And I'm just going to be in the middle of all this because I started the whole fight, and they'll just drive my engagement for me. Why do more work than you have to?
It's not a bad idea. Like I said, the one thing I love, if not, obviously I like you as you, but the one thing I love about doing these with you is you force me to be a better content creator. Just because because it's not a business for you. So you can be 100% aloof and not even care. And it's nice because the more of that I adopt, the happier and the easier my workflow goes. So I guess this is like one of those heartfelt thank you situations.
Oh, well, you're welcome. But for me, it was more like at some point with certain activities, you start to realize that you have to kind of disengage for it. And the Spurgapocalypse was kind of that moment for me because I'm like, okay, I was too both, I would say emotionally invested in the whole thing because pride is sort of an emotion.
Yeah.
I guess. So I was kind of too invested in it, and it started kind of to influence my real life. It's the same thing with anything I do. Like, when I start to notice, like, I'm prioritizing, let's say, gaming or one of my other hobbies over, work or other things, at that point, I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back from this and stop giving this much of a shit.
Which was probably smart. Because at the end, who really cares? Like, does anybody even remember
for me,
any of it?
Well, for me, it was a bit easier to do, though, just on the basis that I never kind of had a goal to make this my main source of income. So at that point, you have the freedom. Like Rolo used to say the same thing, that if he had like this as his main gig, he would feel obliged to compromise his message.
But yeah, you don't
And I
have to. It's
and
just
here,
it's a feeling that you have to, but you don't actually have to. I think that's the part I've been learning from you. You don't have to compromise the message. You don't need maximum clout above all. You can just keep it niche, do your thing, and just maximize that. And I think it's a hard lesson to learn. And I don't think from a business perspective, it's a smart business perspective. But like you said, it's I can live with myself a lot easier, and you can live with yourself a lot easier if you just compartmentalize it properly. And I guess we've got a quiet time here, so I'll do quickly. Zachariah Bergens.
no,
Ooh,
I
that's
was
a very
reading. I was
Amish
reading
name.
chat because Mike Land said Carl threw his coffee and used his follower boyfriends to do his work. Pretty much,
Nice.
yeah.
All right, and then this one. Thanks
That's
for the
kind of the whole
5.
point, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're doing the
I'll
work,
go with
then
the super.
oh, with that one. Okay. So Kaday from Down Under, long time, first viewer. For the sidebar series, I got huge value out of When I Know I Feel Guilty. Ordered my own copy to read. Oh, God, yeah, dude. I'm just doing synopsis. The examples in the book, while they are a little outdated, go into way more detail and it's way better. If you guys don't know, it's When I Say No, I Feel Guilty by Dr. Manuel Smith. It's just basic assertiveness training. And I love everybody. Like, the reason that it's important is obviously be attractive and don't be unattractive is the way you kind of succeed in romance or life, whatever. Um, a lot of guys are so focused on being attractive. Like, what did Delicious Tacos say? The Sphere's advice has turned from, be the best you into be a millionaire and have a Lamborghini in 5 years. But a lot of guys just can't
Well, I
get
think
there because they're
that's.
so unattractive. They haven't even hit 0 yet to go plus.
I don't know. I think Delicious Tacos was right on the money
Hmm.
with that view, and it was kind of like we talked about that last time too. It was just like too many messages about things you should be doing. And if you did all that stuff, like if you're planning to be a millionaire, have a Lambo, 10% body fat, jacked, etc., in 5 years, you have enough shit to do. You don't have time to read any of the content.
Oh, dude, yeah.
But
That's what I was.
but
It's
what it
so
was banking
impossible.
on.
What's that?
No, but the strategy on it was very sound though, because the strategy was they knew that 90% they're not actually going to do the work,
Hmm.
but they are going to sign up to feel as if they did something.
Oh, the New Year's resolution thing.
So I'm pretty sure like most of the courses that were sold, I'm pretty sure like 90% of the people who bought them never did the courses.
Oh, guaranteed. That's always been the stat. Even Christian McQueen told me that way back in the day when he was still a thing here. 85% of online courses people buy, they don't even crack the book open. They don't do anything. They just buy it and they collect them like Beanie Babies or Pokemon. It's the same as the New Year's resolution. You buy a gym membership. All right, this is the year I get into shape. And then you show up for like 2 weeks and then you stop going. Everybody just wants that dopamine hit. I guess it's all right now. Gym memberships are cheap as hell if you actually show up. Oh, jeez. Chesty here with his. You're such a dick. Oh, I know I should be explaining that joke, but I'm not gonna. Anybody in the chat who gets it, you guys can explain it.
No, but actually, out of those, I actually did kind of like the idea behind that program
Oh yeah.
because it's if you actually have it set up so someone has to do something every day. It's only like
Hmm.
maybe it's only 15 minutes, but they have to do something. Then at least as long as they get into that, they get into a habit of doing it. And I kind of like that. It's the same thing with like if you're trying to quit smoking.
Right.
You have to kind of do it one day at a time. So actually doing it that way, that makes sense. But what I didn't like were the $4.99 courses for something that you don't need to take, or like the idea of paying to have access to, well, and this is going to be kind of nasty, but the idea of paying to have access to a friend circle.
Yeah, on that one, and I know it's popular. Obviously, Twitch is kind of built on that too. And most online personalities, you have to kind of have that manufactured friendship thing. Like you have to be likable. I don't know. I'm on the fence for it. Like as a supplement, it's good, but you're right. If you're doing it to buy a deficiency, then yeah, it's not going to work. I don't think you can offer that
Well,
anyway.
it
That's
would
why I
make
hate the coach idea because like you can't deliver. an online friend circle. So if you're even hinting at it, you're basically lying to your audience.
And for the most part, I think people would be better off going out and finding some real life friends instead of having all their friends online because, ugh.
Well,
I
you
mean,
can have
I
a
miss the
combination of
days when
both.
having online friends was weird. Yeah, you can have a combination of both, but it's kind of getting to a point where, like, if you have 30 online friends and no real life friends, you have a problem.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. I don't think you can make a course on how to make friends in real life either. Here's the thing: go talk to people and the people you like more. I think the best I've seen on it advice was everybody is an acquaintance. If you know somebody in real life, then you're an acquaintance. Either you know them from the office, you know them from the gym, you know them from like you play football on the weekends with them, whatever. That's one acquaintance, one activity friend. And then let's say you go to beers after work with the guy from the office. That's great. And then maybe you guys have a pickup hockey team afterwards. So once you get a similar person in 3 different activity circles, then it's basically a friend. And then you can kind of build on that. So it's the same as dating, where you just kind of have to build your funnels. You have your online dating, you have your day game, you have night game, you have your social circle, and then of those people, which ones are good enough for you to take on actual dates or have them meet your friends. And then the more of your circles they ingratiate themselves into, the closer they become to that, girlfriend or that really good friend or that best friend, which is why everybody talks about their best friend like he was at my wedding, or like the very important activities, or for me, my best friends are ones I deployed with.
So I think it's just more important to have that peer group, because I think once you have that, if it's not a shit peer group like the math club or something, then they're going to drive you to be better in other areas.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like your carpenter friend. Everybody wanted him to be a good carpenter because, hey, I gave you the best plumbing ever and you built this crappy set of cabinets. Do better, dumbass. Although I don't even think they have to say that so much because the guy doesn't want to let them down. Like we kind of put that pressure on ourselves to perform and be better, which I think that's like awesome as far as like a positive motivation goes. Like not letting your brothers down.
Because the most insulting thing about freeloading competence are people who do it and don't actually put it into work. Mm-hmm. Like if you ask me for financial advice, I give it to you, and then you come to me like 6 months later, yeah, man, I'm broke. Can you help me? And it's like, dude, I told you what not to do.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's common as hell.
They're not only exploiting my competence, but they're also wasting my time. That's why I never got into like coaching or consulting on here. Mm-hmm. It's just like it would annoy me too much to spend like 3 hours on someone and then they're not implementing and they just fuck off. That just gets annoying.
Well, yeah, that's the whole reason to add money to it, because then at least you don't have that expectation that you must implement this advice as I've said. It's just you're paying for me to consult for information. It's like if you're doing consulting for a company, you tell them exactly what they need, why they need it, what it would cost, what the alternatives are. And then whether they do that or not in the company, it doesn't matter to you because your job was just to give them the information for whatever your fee is. But again, that's why I love consulting.
But then after you started calling yourself a consultant, everyone else started doing it because it sounded better than coach or whatever.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. That drives me nuts too, because like I actually put some thought in it and then some assholes just or whatever. Although I'll still see a lot of coaches, but I think coaches do that thing where they just tell you to buck up, cupcake, stop being such a simp, just go for it, yelling into their webcams. But that would suck, man, because then you're always in this constant race to like, it's almost like the sexual marketplace. You know how sexual signals, like a rich guy is one that's a really good top tier guy. So what does he do? He has a Lamborghini. And so like poor guys rent Lamborghinis to pretend to be him. So then he has to have an Aston Martin. And then beyond that, he's like, okay, now I don't have any car because I don't even need to flex a car. And you're in this constant rat race to keep the riffraff out of your sexual signaling. It's almost like that from a business perspective.
Yeah, it's going to happen because people are going to do what make them seem credible. And coach isn't credible anymore after all. Like we barreled down hard on coaches.
Oh God, yeah.
And the same thing. Like no one's like buy my course anymore just because we railed on the people selling courses so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the ones that do, it's a question of.
No, just go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking, yeah, the only ones I can think of when they do, I think they're going to start latching on to John's thing, But I don't think you can fake that. Like, hey, those are the webinars, like literally hand hold you through it so you actually take the thing. Troy and him both do that. And that's the part that's the only part I like about theirs, is that they make sure at least the guy gets what he paid for. The only reason I don't think people are going to be copying that en masse is because it takes effort. So clearly expensive signals are where it's at.
Yeah, like I was sitting in on a couple of John's webinars, and he actually puts in a ton of work. Like when he was doing like the first body language mastery thing,
yeah,
he was on like he shaved his head just because he was working so much. He didn't have time to style it or anything, wash it.
I know, that was crazy. But yeah, you don't see those because I've done I think 2 courses online myself. I did Christian McQueen's How to Build a Side Hustle Business because I didn't know what I was doing in this space. And all it was all right, here's my Spotify playlist. And it was essentially how to start up like a Spotify, or how to start up like a website, get a shopping cart in there, the different options. And I was like, okay, I could have done this myself. I probably saved a bunch of time in that. It's easier to have it condensed like that as opposed to research, but like I said, the only incentive to finish it was me incentivizing to finish it. The other one was Tanner's Dress Like a Man course. Although I think he might have done webinars, but I was onto it so late that I was after all that stuff was done. But yeah, most of the time it's just Spotify playlists.
But a lot of the time, though, you'll pay for convenience of something. Like, is it Shopify that's gotten so popular now with the online stores?
Yeah.
And they're expensive as all hell in terms of your transaction fee. But you basically press one button and it's ready to go.
Yeah, which is true. Same as Patreon's the same thing. Like, I could easily set up a Patreon subscription service on my own website, 0 fees attached to it. But the ease of having Patreon handle the access controls and all that stuff means I'd save money or save time. The time it would take me to set up access control lists, well worth the 5 or 10% they take on the top of things. But then most people don't think of it like that either, though. It's like you said earlier, where it's you're buying like a friend group. You're buying something to stave off a deficiency. You're buying a feeling, but you're not actually buying it from that perspective. And I think had we had enough people in here who are strictly looking at the return on investment, you would see a lot more honesty about these courses out there. And I think you'd see a lot more people being, run out of town. But it's not the world we live in. We live in one with freeloaders and people who are insecure about something and want to feel like they're solving it.
Yeah, I think it's also with a lot of them, it's like if they can be around someone who's better or who doesn't have their particular deficiency, they feel better about themselves, even though they have it, because they know they have that area handled. It's kind of like if your brother-in-law's a plumber. You might not know how to fix your pipes, but you can call him.
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't feel like such a big deficiency.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I mean, I don't like it's horrible from what we're talking about, but I get it. Yeah.
And like the only reason we exist is that most people who have a friend who's good with girls, they have a friend who doesn't know how to teach it or doesn't know what he's actually doing.
No, which is true. Just that be yourself advice.
Yeah, because be yourself works for him, but that's because he's attractive and not unattractive when he's himself. The friend usually has the opposite problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of like it's a band-aid more than anything. Like ideally you should know a lot of this shit yourself. But most of the time they don't. So
yeah,
not sure how to flip it another way.
No, it's exactly what we talk about. I think you flipped it perfectly. And then here's the problem is you get guys that will default to their childlike model. Well, it's not my fault. As if that's an argument for, oh, okay, then never mind. It's not your fault you're not getting laid. Cool. Go back to playing World of Warcraft on your server. No offense, Carl. But like fault is for women and children to worry about. That's a reputation management skill. And if you're a guy who's not attractive enough to get women at all, like your reputation is already trash. If girls don't want to touch your dick, they already know it. So I don't know why they think that as long as you don't address the question and you kind of hide from it, that nobody will know. It's like everybody knows. Like I had an article on this one too, where guys were worried about enforcing boundaries, where I say you have to have your time or your attention or your commitment, and you just pull those if the other person crosses a boundary. And then the first answer you're going to get from guys, well, won't my wife think I'm butthurt if I do that? I'm like, dude, she hasn't slept with you in 6 months. What do you think her opinion is of you now? It's like butthurt is the least of your worries. At least now you're enforcing a boundary. She already thinks you're butthurt, but now you're butthurt not sitting there jerking off quietly in the bathroom so you don't wake her up at night.
I just remember there was one conversation.
What's that?
Like, I was driving home from a party once, and it was just like me and 4 chicks in the car.
Uh-huh.
And they started discussing, like, this one guy that all of them knew and I knew as well. And
right.
One of the girls were like, yeah, I would totally fuck him if only he had a pair of balls on him.
I love that when they're honest like that. That's good. You're in the trust circle, Carl. The trust circle.
Well, I'm not sure why, but I'm always the guy that people feel comfortable talking to. It's like, even with work, if people have something to complain about at work, they always come to me for some reason.
It's because you keep your mouth shut. It's discretion. They know they can tell you things, and you're not going to spread it around like gossip.
But the thing with these girls was just like, they know which of their guy friends are getting laid and not.
Mm-hmm.
They're perfectly aware. Every guy kind of knows which guys in his circle are getting laid.
Yeah.
So, like, you may as well mention it because everyone already knows.
Well, that's just it. At least when it's open, you can address it.
Let's see. Back when I was giving Mile of Dick, a guy told me in Miami that Miami had probably 3 to 4 guys over 100 lay count. Only 3 or 4. Kind of shit. That's what makes me want to know some guys aren't reputable.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one in the chat yet. Yeah, everybody knows.
It just popped up here. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing. Like, it's easy to exaggerate accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
And you're actually very rarely called out unless it's dangerous.
True. Well, yeah, other people are
like,
incompetent and insecure about other things, so they're worried if they call you out, you'll call them out. So everybody has this tacit understanding that we're all lying to each other, and I won't say anything if you don't say anything. It's freaking weird.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's only matters if it becomes, like, if you're an ordnance disposal expert and you're incompetent, at that point people address it if they have to be in the room when you're trying to disarm the explosives.
Yeah, pretty much.
But other than that, people hardly, and I've seen this so much in corporate, people with, presentation on presentation, and they're completely incompetent and they never get called out on it. And they get promoted because, like, the guy promoting them is just as incompetent.
Yeah, and all he hears is good things from down below, so nobody really knows.
Yeah, like, it's a lot of the time, because sometimes you kind of have to go like a shady route and go bypass your boss, and then you address, like, his boss with the problems, and they're like, "Oh, I've never heard anything about this," and it's like, of course you didn't, because if the boss below them told them, then they're basically saying, I'm not competent enough to manage my department.
Yeah.
So it's just basically it's like a pyramid scheme of lies.
Pretty much. Dude, I love, though, when you have, like, a switched on boss's boss, and you go, like, around the background. If you show you can do it with some discretion, help your boss save some face, not make the boss's boss look incompetent, give him knowledge that he likes, where you have that little communication chain with him. So he knows as long as you bring it up discreetly, he has that open communication with stuff that's below him, so he no longer doesn't find out this stuff. I love those arrangements. They're absolutely wonderful.
That's why it's a good idea to kind of figure out what your boss's boss or so likes to do on his free time and just adopt his hobby.
Oh, yeah, the golf. That's like
the guy
social time.
Yeah, it's like that's how golf became such a huge thing. Like, no one really likes to play golf. But at some point in time, one dude liked to play golf, and he was really powerful. And some other guys decided to play golf to hang around him, and it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, and now it's 4 hours in the sun where you can talk about stuff that you don't want to talk about at work.
Personally, I'm a much bigger fan of fishing, just because, like, fishing, you can get to sit in a boat and drink beer, and it's not really about the fishing, it's about the drinking.
What kind of golf do you have? My golf bag has, like, beer cozies in it. I'm just saying. Most guys do. Nobody thinks they're going to be a golf pro. But then again, I also was military. So a lot of guys love golfing with the chief. And the chief, my chief though, he used to have like a whiskey flask compartment in there, so he didn't drink beer. He was going in there to go hard. And then by the round three, by hole three, everybody's bad golfing. Like the handicaps all even out. Whoever's a better golfer drinks faster, and then hole three, everybody's hitting it the same. We're all six bogey or six over par, and that's our game.
Yeah, the only place that's dangerous, it's like hunting.
Oh yeah.
But I remember, yeah, you probably shouldn't use live firearms when you're loaded.
Yeah,
I did go to a funniest hunting trip I ever went on. I think we carried more weight with us in than we did out because of all the alcohol.
Really?
And we were just sitting there drinking for like a week straight in a cabin. And then we were going out hunting. And in the end, when we were driving back, and we were unloading the car, and like one guy had a car where like you had there was nobody in the back seat, so we had all the guns laid out in the back seat.
Right.
And he leans in to get like a shotgun out of the back seat, and he just leans in through the window, grabs it by the pistol grip, and someone hadn't unloaded it, so he just sent like a double load of buckshot straight through his side of his car.
Dear God. Holy crap. Oh, the military guy in me is like, why did you not check that and clear that weapon before you even touched it? Holy cow. Yeah. Were people in the car at the time, like sitting in the front while he went to grab it?
Yeah, no, two guys in the front seat, and he went to grab it, and they just jumped out of the car.
I have to ask, did anybody get hit in the face after that?
No.
Oh, man.
Wasn't with us.
I would have taken a swing. I'm like, I don't care. Yeah, you're not supposed to hit him. I don't care. He needs to learn. If he never checks that in front of me, take a swing. Oh,
well, that's kind of why I like hunting with. That's why I like hunting with military guys, because like checking and clearing the weapon is so second nature. They can be like a blood alcohol content of like 8%, and they still clear that fucking gun before they put it away.
Jesus, dude, you're giving me a goddamn heart attack. Oh, I haven't even touched a rifle in like 5 years.
One of the guys I used to hunt with, it was a lifer, and he'd been like, I think it was 25 years in the military.
Jesus.
And when he'd get really drunk, you just find him like everyone else was passed out. He'd be sitting in the kitchen just cleaning his gun.
But that's the thing. It's like when you can tell when you're with a real party girl that no matter how drunk she is, she can still take her contact lenses out perfectly and wash them and put them away. That's when you know you got a girl that can handle her liquor. And she's been practicing a lot. How do we bring this back to freeloading, by the way? Oh, I guess we're running. So you have to run, do you not?
Yeah, shit, I have to go now. It's actually
all right,
fun.
Guys.
We should do a episode just dedicated to story time.
Oh, dude, that would be awesome. I've got so many military stories. People don't even believe them, but at least you'll understand that I'm not lying to you for clout. I guess so. I'll end it on this one, guys. Carl's got to go. He's doing his things. We're making this one short and snappy. I'm going to go on to Twitch after this, and we'll kind of carry it over. Bring you guys over there. Come see the new environment. I don't think I'm going to play anything. I think it's going to be a just chatting one. But anyways, come on in. Check it out. Well, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on a lot of this stuff, a lot of your stories. It'll be more back and forth engagement. But anyways, thanks, Carl. I know you have very little amount of free time right now, spending it here.
Yeah, it was a good show, man. I'll see you next week.
All right, have fun. All right, guys, I'll see you over there in just a second. Cheers.